This is Fantology.
You may have heard of us.
The year of Sanderson has officially begun, with the first secret project being released a few days ago, Tress of the Emerald Sea. Obviously, there's a lot of interest around what's actually contained in these secret projects. Sanderson has released the first chapters of, I believe, all of them. So you should have some idea, but a lot of people are going in blind, or maybe just kind of heard about the Kickstarter and are now actually wondering, okay, are these books worth reading? So my review of Tress is up and down. Somehow my expectations were both exceeded but also not met at the same time. I guess that means my expectations are maybe not managed very well, but let me explain. So positives of the book, two things: world building and plot. Those are the two main things for me. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that this secret project number 1 is like a parody of Princess Bride, and it really sticks to that. And if you've seen Princess Bride, you know that it's a fairly straightforward, kind of old school fantasy story, right? And that's what we have here, and that's what it sets out to do, and I think it does it really great. The plot, when we're actually going through the action of the story, is really fun, and it doesn't need to be too complex. Are there some twists? Yeah, like you wouldn't have a Sanderson story without that, but it's done in like a basic enough way where it really pays a lot of nice homage to Princess Bride, and it's a fun story, and for that I really enjoyed it. We also would not have a Sanderson story without some really cool world building, and for some reason I expected, I don't know, like just kind of a vanilla Princess Bride plot in a weird planet, and that was going to be the book. And I guess at a base level, that is kind of the book, but it's done so much better than that. There's so many layers here to all the things that he's doing. He ties in his world building into the plot, into the story and the world really well, and it all kind of fits. The characters feel at home in this crazy alien world. I'm not going to go into the details of how things work here, but it's really unique and something that I haven't seen before in fantasy, which is always fun. But it seems like it would actually work. Like there's a lot of, Sanderson likes these little sciencey moments. There's some of that, and it's fun. And I really enjoyed the world that he's created here. And I'm frankly kind of disappointed that I don't think he has any more plans to do any more stories here, because it's a fun place to be. And I also need a map. There was no map, at least in the ebook, so I'm really hoping there's some kind of map, because the whole idea with like the different colored seas and everything that they're traveling along just begs for a map. So I'm hoping that the box includes the map. Okay, the other big positive for me, because I'm a sucker for this, are all the Cosmere connections. Again, for some reason, my expectations were that this was just going to be kind of a side thing with a few like nods to the Cosmere or Easter eggs. If you really are paying attention, you'll see that it's actually the Cosmere. That's not the case. There are a lot of really blatant Cosmere things. And I'm not saying, I don't think this story is going to have a huge impact on like the big Cosmere-wide plot that we're getting in the Mistborn and Stormlight books. I would really be shocked to see that. But the number of times that Cosmere things are referenced or present here in the story just makes it all really fun. And the story is told from Hoid's perspective. Like Hoid is the first person narrator of the story, and he's also a character in the story. He's not the main character, but he is writing the story, and he is present for a lot of it in kind of a unique way, which you'll see. And I thought, I liked that. I also didn't like that because of the tone. I'll talk about this a little bit more. Anyway, but the positive here is that, we actually get a story that's really focused around Hoid to some degree, and we learn a little bit more about him, a little bit more of a tease about him, and I'm really looking forward to getting more, his complete story, which will be still years away. But anyway, that was a positive to get more of that. So, right, the main character isn't Hoid, it's Tress, as you'd expect, and I thought she was a fun character. She's kind of a, shy, younger girl at first, and grows into someone that's a little more self-confident and self-assured. And that's a nice, it wasn't anything too unique, but it was a nice little character arc, and I felt somewhat connected to Tress. I think the side characters are decent. Like, they're all notable enough to maybe be a little bit memorable, but there's nothing too crazy here with the characters that's going to keep me up at night in tears. It was mostly just kind of a fun adventure story. So the big negative for me, which I kind of referenced earlier, is the whole tone of the book. Just, it's not my style, and I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me here. That's fine, but my humor style is a little bit different than the humor that Sanderson seems to really like to lean into. I mean, the best way I can classify Sanderson's humor is it's just a bunch of dad jokes, and I mean, it's slightly more nuanced than that, but it just felt like we were all over the place with the tone of this book, where it would be, the adventure story and they're moving along, and then all of a sudden it's kind of poignant, and Hoyd, the narrator, is saying something that's kind of profound, which I enjoyed, and then all of a sudden there's, a joke about poop or farting or something, and I just had so much whiplash around this, and frankly, like, I could do without all of those, elementary type dad jokes. Like, that's not my type of humor. I really enjoy a little more nuanced kind of British humor, sarcasm layered in there, not on the nose at all. That's what I enjoy. I mean, fine if you enjoy this style. That's great, and I don't want to take anything away from you or say my style is superior. However, this tone was just not for me. So just know, if you're going into it, and know the type of humor that you enjoy, know that if you like a little more like layered humor, then you're probably gonna have to roll your eyes a little bit and skip over, just kind of skim some parts. There's some jokes that he just really leans into, and I could just have done without that entirely. Honestly, the entire book, if you've read A Series of Unfortunate Events, it's kind of got like that absurdist feel to the story, and the way that things are happening, and the way that characters react sometimes, and just the situations. However, instead of the Lemony Snicket vibe that's a little more snide and weird, it's Brandon Sanderson, which is also, he also kind of leans into a weird fairy tale-ish elementary type humor, but it's just a bit more basic. I don't know. I guess I'm having a hard time really describing this, just that it wasn't for me. So that was my main criticism. Maybe try to accept that a little bit if you're going into it. But if you like that and you've liked his other humor, go for it. I think it's more of like a Wayne style humor. So if you enjoy that in Mistborn Era too, then look forward to more here. So overall with Tress, I think that the positives definitely outweigh the big negative for me. And honestly, if that's not a negative for you and you enjoy Brandon's humor style, then you're really going to like this book, because there's probably not going to be too much negative. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Definitely enjoyed reading it, went through it fairly quickly, exceeded expectations. Honestly, my expectations for this book were not very high, mainly due to the fact that the preview chapters really kind of hinted at this tone, right, that I was going to be getting into. And so I was kind of bracing myself, thinking like, okay, I'm going to have to go through this the entire time, and I'm going to it's going to be a little bit grating. And it was, but the fact that we had all these Cosmere connections, and the plot and the characters were strong, that really kind of drove it for me, and I was fine for the most part with the things that weren't for me. So there you go, Tress of the Emerald Sea. That's the first of 5 Brandon Sanderson books that we'll be getting this year. So let me know what you thought in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all those good things, and hop on Discord if you want a little more nuanced conversation. See you later.